Howdy, I'm Troy Allen, pastor of First Baptist Church in College Station. Just want to say thanks for clicking on this week's sermon podcast. I want to encourage you, once you're finished, to take a look around our website to learn more about our church, find out about our worship times, and also to look at the daily devotionals that are provided for you to go along with this week's sermon. As always, we want to encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to keep up with the latest of what's happening here at First Baptist Church. Here's the sermon.
And so as we continue our series on first things and priorities, and we've talked about placing God at first place of our life, this morning I think it's appropriate and fitting that we talk about Jesus. And so in doing so, we're going to talk about a special invitation that Jesus offers to us today from Matthew chapter 4. But that kind of got me thinking about this idea of following. And there's this phenomenon happening in not just our country, but around the world. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but there's this thing called social media. Y'all heard about that before? It's sweeping the world. It's unbelievable. But here's the thing. Like, the thing with social media is that everybody wants followers, like people to follow them and see what they're doing. So I was just curious, like, what platforms of social media are people using? And so we did a little research this week, and here's what we came up with. Here's just some of the top ones. So Facebook, like all of y'all have probably heard of Facebook. You may not have one, but there are almost 2 billion people in the world, that's billion with a B, who have a Facebook page. That's a lot of people, by the way. And so, I mean, that's kind of a medium that if you want to share maybe your disapproval or your rant about something, that is the platform that we have created for you to do that. It may not always be anonymous, though you may think that it is, okay? Just kind of get your thoughts out there on what you think about this, that, or the other. YouTube, right? We use YouTube all the time. You want to learn how to fix your dishwasher or your transmission, you go to YouTube, right? 1 billion people in the world are using YouTube. I'm so thankful for those people that are smarter than me that can teach me how to do stuff, because that's the thing that I use to learn how to fix things around my house, right? Instagram. So if you're like under the age of 25, you probably don't know what Instagram is, okay? And that's okay. Basically, it's expressing what's happening in your life through pictures. A lot of them have to do with food, all right? Just saying, all right? So Instagram is a fantastic way to connect with people as well. Twitter, if you're over the age of 25 and probably below the age of 45, you at least understand what Twitter is. You may even have one. And just a way, kind of a microblog is the way it's described. It's basically giving people life in 140 characters or less. All right? And then finally, Snapchat. Snapchat is the up-and-comer. All right? So if you are probably under the age of 25, you probably have no idea what Snapchat is, but this is the way all the kids are talking today, all right? Snapchat. So it got me curious. So when we look at a platform, who are the people that everyone is following, right? So here's some statistics on Twitter, right? Twitter, 300 million followers. Katy Perry is the most followed person. Some of you are going, I have no idea who that is. Well, you're one of the 96 million people who aren't following her, okay? Notice this, First Baptist Church, College Station, not in the top 3. Can you help us change that, please? Wait, I'm begging you, all right? So Katy Perry, Justin Bieber, I know we have a lot of believers out there. 92 million people follow him, all right? Then I thought this was surprising. Former President Barack Obama, 85 million people follow him, all right? What about Instagram? I thought Instagram was really funny because the most followers on Instagram is Instagram. That's troublesome. But Selena Gomez, T Swift, all right, that's who everybody's following. We want to know what's going on in these lives of these celebrities. Listen, we all want to follow someone, and to an extent in our life, we want to be followed. We want to be followed, but not like in a creeper kind of way, because that's weird. All right, but we want someone to follow us because we want people to, we want at least to think that our life matters. But here's the question we've got to ask. Who are you following, and why are you following them? Who are you following and why are you following? In fact, maybe the more essential question is the person that you're following really worth following at all? This morning, I want us to turn our attention to Matthew chapter 4, to a very simple invitation from Jesus. And this simple invitation leads to dramatic life transformation if you accept the invitation. And what happens here is that Jesus' invitation moves beyond just this simple belief just this simple faith, if you will, and it calls you to actually putting that faith into action, like doing something with it. And just my opinion here, the church so desperately needs to do this. We've got to talk less and do more. We've got to move beyond just a simple belief in who Jesus is and start putting action to that faith. And so here's Jesus' simple invitation to you today. Follow me. Matthew chapter 4. Let's look at it together. Beginning in verse 18. Let me invite you to stand this morning as you're able in honor of the reading of God's word together. And this is what Matthew records for us. He says, while walking by the Sea of Galilee, he, that is Jesus, saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Immediately, don't miss that word, by the way, immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James the son of Zebedee and John his brother, in the boat with Zebedee their father, mending nets, and he called them. Immediately, there's that word again, immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Jesus' invitation is simple. Follow me. Pray with me this morning, would you? God, as we open your word, we are asking you to speak into our life, Lord. I pray that we would hear this invitation today and that understand this invitation is not for someone else. It's for every one of us. You are extending this invitation to everyone who is here. Lord, I pray as we walk through this passage this morning that, God, you will speak into our heart. God, you will deal with some things that are deeply seated and deeply rooted in our life because you love us. And we will experience your love today. We will experience the depths of your grace today as we are here worshiping you and opening your word. Father, we ask that you speak now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thanks, guys. Y'all can be seated. So as you do, I want to point your attention to verse 18 and verse 21. All right? And so this is just basically telling us what's happening here. And so it kind of sets the framework for this idea. Before you can follow Jesus, you have to stop what you're doing first, right? So before you can follow Jesus, you have to stop what you're doing first. And so Simon and Andrew, James and John, it tells us here that they are fishermen. All right? So when we come across them, when Jesus encounters them on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, it should come as no surprise to us that they are doing fisherman things. Right? They're mending their nets or washing their nets. And so that's how we encounter Simon and Andrew and James and John. They are fishermen doing fisherman things. I mean, they're right there. Their boat is pulled up on the shore and they're mending their nets, getting it ready for the next day when they would go out and cast their nets into the sea and catch some fish and make a living for their family. This is not a hobby for them. Right? These are not the guys that are out on the lake on the weekend just for fun. These guys are out there slogging through this every day of their life. James and John are there with their father. Right? This is something they've learned from their dad. So it shouldn't surprise us when we meet them that they are doing fisherman kinds of things. And so it's into this that Jesus steps. Now, think about this, right? These were fishermen. This was their job. So let me ask you a question this morning. Okay, in fact, I just want you to write this down, like on your bulletin there where you can take notes, where the fill in the blanks are. There should be some extra space. I want you to answer this question, okay? What do you do? Like, what's your job? Okay, so like Simon, Andrew, James, and John, they were fishermen. So if they were here this morning, they would write down fishermen. Okay, so what do you do? Because I know we've got a lot of different people in here. We've got teachers, and we've got businessmen and businesswomen. We've got stay-at-home moms and stay-at-home dads. We've got welders and carpenters, all kinds of people. So what do you do? Because I want you to think about this. What would happen if tomorrow Jesus walked into your classroom or into your office or maybe into your home? Wherever you are, Jesus stepped into that because that's what happens here with James and John and Simon and Andrew. They are at work and Jesus comes to where they are. He comes to work with them. So when you write down like what do you do, just imagine Jesus walking into that place where you work, okay? And this conversation that we read about here just kind of unfolds. Okay? Now there was something, or better I will say someone, that caused Simon and Andrew, James and John to stop what they were doing. Like they're working away over here, and like all of a sudden they just stop and they look, and there's Jesus. I don't think that Jesus had to come up to him and go, excuse me guys, do you have a second? I don't think that's how it unfolded at all. I think as Jesus is walking down the shore of the Sea of Galilee, Simon and Andrew, James and John looked up and they saw it was Jesus, and they stopped what they were doing. That's so important for us because there are a lot of us that want to follow Jesus, but we want to keep doing what we're doing. It can't happen like that. If we're going to follow Jesus, then we've got to stop what we're doing. So just as these men knew what they were doing, Jesus also knew what he was doing on the shore of the Sea of Galilee that day. He wasn't just out for a casual stroll. He was there purposefully. He was seeking fishers of men. Now, one of the places I love to go, and this comes because of where I grew up. I love the beach. It's fantastic. I grew up on Texas Gulf Coast. Not the prettiest beaches in the world, but hey, they're the best that we got, right? And I remember as a kid going, we take our family, we've been, South Padre, we've been to, Mustang Island, all the places here in Texas, Mississippi, Florida. We've been, around. We love the beach. In fact, nothing makes me happier when I'm at the beach than these two things, a chair and a book. That's it. I'm a simple man, right? But while you're there, you kind of begin to watch people, right? And there's always that, like, one little kid or the little family, and they're building the sandcastle, right? They're running back and they're getting the sand and they're building it. And there's always one that he's like, man, this is going to be great. It's going to last forever. And then high tide comes and it dashes his little hopes against the sand. He rushes out the next day to see his castle just obliterated, right? But there's another group of people, right? And these people are completely unaware of what's happening around them. And they walk around like this. Right on the edge of where the water meets the shore, right? And they're just watching. And all of a sudden they see something and they scurry over and try to grab it, right? They're looking for seashells, right? Now, in all of my life, there's one thing. This is like my holy grail. I want to find one of these. I've never found one. Of all the beaches that I've been to, I want to find, and this is like what I think most people are looking for on the seashore, the sand dollar. But not like a piece, not like the change. We want the whole dollar, right? We don't like a nickel or a quarter, man. We want the whole thing. And so we're scurrying around trying to find those. It was purposeful, man. They're completely oblivious to everything that's going on. That is with that same kind of purpose, I think, to give you a mental picture of how Jesus is walking down the shore of the Sea of Galilee. It's with purpose. He's looking for those who will become fishers of men. All right? Now, we've already established that we all have jobs of some sort, right? But I think there are also some other things in our life that we do. You're not defined by what you do. Teacher, pastor, welder, whatever. We're not defined by those. But there are some other things in our life, I think sometimes, that we wish we could stop doing. But we just can't. Right? We tried everything we have, but we can't. I just need those couple of beers at the end of the day because it's been a hard day and I deserve it. Man, I would love to be able to kick, this habit of having to use these pills every day just to numb the pain. But I can't. I know that if I do, it's just going to hurt in a lot of different ways. I got to come home and spend about 10 hours every night after I get home from school or after work, just playing video games online because that's my community, right? We have all these things and we want to do it because we know that it's not really healthy for us, but we don't know how to quit. In fact, I think we may use the word trapped. We may use the word trapped. Some of us feel trapped this morning, and maybe you feel trapped by your job. Think about these four men. They were fishermen, right? Their father were fishermen. Their fathers before them were fishermen. Did Simon and Andrew, James and John want to be fishermen? I don't know. But at the invitation of Jesus, they sure did quickly leave that behind. Maybe they felt trapped too. And you may feel trapped here this morning. And let's just get one thing very clear as we kind of dive into this. If you want to make a change in your life, you've got to stop what you're doing. You've got to stop what you're doing. When Jesus enters into that place where you are, he causes you to stop what you're doing. Now look what happens in verse 19. He says, and he said to them, now this is Simon and Andrew. For James and John, it just says that he called them. All right, so we don't know if he actually used the words follow me, but we're just going to assume that it was something similar to that. All right? And so here it says Jesus said to them, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. So we follow Jesus by accepting his invitation. So he's gotten our attention, right? He shows up on the scene. We stop what we're doing. Now Jesus says, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. So if I'm going to follow Jesus, then I've got to accept his invitation. Now, Jesus was not like a random stranger walking down the shore of the Sea of Galilee. These men probably knew Jesus. Jesus had recently relocated from Nazareth to Capernaum. Capernaum is where Simon and Andrew were from, probably where James and John were from. And so he was the new guy in town, and so they knew who he was. In fact, in John's gospel, John chapter 1, it says that Jesus tells Simon, you are no longer Simon, but now you are Cephas, or Peter. All right, so he changed his name. And so when this guy who has the ability to change my name, to give me a nickname, if you will, when he comes strolling along, I'm going to, hey, there's Jesus. So that's kind of what is happening here. They knew him. They knew that he was the carpenter from Nazareth. And so Jesus just simply does this. He says, won't you come along with me? Won't you come along with me? Follow me. Go where I go. Stay where I stay. Just come along, join me. And it's the power of invitation. You know, we're in the time of year where invitations are going to be filling your mailbox. Now, usually when I go to the mailbox, it's one of about three things. It's a bill, it's a credit card offer, or it's junk mail, like some advertisement for something that I'll never use, right? But every so often, there is actually a hand-addressed note. And this time of year, I usually seem to get a lot more of those, and it's because it is graduation season, right? So all of the seniors are like counting down the days until they graduate. And it doesn't matter if you're graduating from kindergarten or, with your third doctorate, right? You're telling people, I am graduating. And that invitation to graduation, they don't really want you to come. They just want you to send them money. Okay, I'm just going to expose the whole scam right here, right? But there's something when you get this hand address with the swoopy, letters that it makes you, feel at least compelled. Maybe, I want to go. Or in June, May, June, there's a, wedding season, right? So you'll start getting these wedding invitations, and that couple has made you feel special because they want you at their special day when they're getting married in Cabo, and you can't afford to go, but hey, it's just about the gift anyway, right? The invitation makes us feel special. In fact, there are some of you who are here this morning because someone invited you. They said, I want you to come. Now, maybe Grandma, because you know that after church on Sunday, Grandma's going to be making fried chicken, and that's what you're waiting for. Okay, that's fine, whatever gets you here. Okay, but the thing is that when someone asks you to do something, it makes you more inclined to do it. And so Jesus says, follow me. And he invites you to come along. And he invites you to follow with him. So this invitation that Jesus gives these four men, it's the same invitation he gives you today. He says, follow me. You, come with me. Come along. Stop what you're doing and join me on this journey. Now, when Jesus invites you to follow him, there's something else that goes along with this. He says, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. When you make that commitment to follow Jesus, he remakes you, okay? He forms you into something that is brand new. So these men were fishermen, so he talks to them in fisherman talk, right? He says, follow me and I will make you civil engineers. What do these fishermen know about civil engineering? Absolutely nothing. No, he says, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. I get this. I understand what that is. And so what Jesus does is he says, I'm calling you with your gifts, talents, and abilities because I want you to use those gift, talents, and abilities to bring my Father greater honor. So he calls you just as you are to use you in new ways. So a second ago, I had you write down, what do? You wrote down your job. Here's what I want you to do next. Write this down. What can I do? Like, what are your skills? Right? So for some of you, I can sing, or I can play an instrument, or I can play the radio, whatever. Okay, we're not going to judge. Okay, I can cook, I can draw, I can paint, right? I'm really good at working with my hands. I'm really good at building things. I'm really good at planning and organization. I'm really good at telling people what to do, right? Whatever skills, abilities, or talents you have, just write a couple of down, 2 or 3, real fast. Why are you looking at me? You should be writing. Come on, all right? A couple of them, write them down. And here's why I want you to do that. I want you to look at that list. Because there are times you've looked at your life and the things that God, or the things that you think you're really good at and that you are really good at, you said, there's no way that God can use this. But Jesus tells these fishermen, hey, I'm going to make you fishers of men. I'm going to take the skills, talents, and abilities you have, and I'm going to use them so that my Father gets greater honor. So when you accept this invitation from Jesus, here's what he does. He makes you brand new. He takes away the things in your life that hinder and harm and hurt you, and he replaces them with things that are far better. So when you choose to follow Jesus, he does the same thing in you that he does with these men. He says, I'm going to take your skills and your talents and abilities, and I'm going to transform you so that now you can use these gift, talents, and abilities to bring my Father great honor and great praise. Listen to this. Jesus uses transformed lives to bring life transformation to others. That's exactly what we see playing out in the pages of the Gospels in the book of Acts. He uses transformed lives. These guys would never be the same. And you'll find out why in just a second. Okay? They'll never be the same. Their lives were transformed, and God used them to bring life transformation to others. See, it's not about what you can do. It's about what Jesus can do and will do if you allow him to. So last thing, verse 20 and verse 22. Two key words. Immediately, it says Simon and Andrew left their nets and followed him. So the very thing that they were doing, they stopped, they looked and listened, and they left. Right? It says immediately they left behind their nets. In verse 22, James and John, same thing. They left their nets, they left their boats, and they left their father. And they followed him. So here's the last point for this morning is this. Jesus' invitation requires an immediate response. Jesus' invitation requires an immediate response. It says immediately. They didn't sit there and hem-haw around. They didn't go, well, Jesus, I need to pray about this for a couple days. No, immediately in that moment, they left everything behind in order to follow Jesus. Even their family. They left everything behind because Jesus was greater. And so listen to this. I know some of you this morning, you're playing with this idea of Jesus' invitation, and you're like, Jesus says, follow me. My life is a wreck. I need to do that because he's the only guy that can fix it. But I want you to understand something this morning. Following Jesus comes with great sacrifice. Okay? I want you to understand this. Following Jesus comes with great sacrifice. Sacrifice first on Jesus' behalf. I mean, that's why we celebrate, Resurrection Sundays, because of the sacrifice that Jesus made on the cross. Okay? Don't take that lightly. All right? Don't take that lightly. The pain and anguish and suffering that Jesus endured so that you could have a relationship with God as he intended it from the very beginning. But because sin has so horribly marred and wrecked our lives, we can't have that on our own. So Jesus comes in. He becomes the sacrifice to restore our relationship with God. But here's the thing. We've got to choose to follow him. And this is where the sacrifice on your part comes in. Okay, here's where the sacrifice on your part comes in. You've got to think about what you have to give up in order to follow Jesus. And there's some of us that are sitting here this morning saying, I'm not willing to stop doing that in order for me to follow Jesus. Jesus' invitation requires this immediate response. And so let's just kind of unpack that real quick. Okay? You're going to respond immediately to Jesus' invitation. You already have. You already have. And really, there are two choices for us. Either one, you will follow him. Or two, you'll just keep doing what you're doing. That's it. You've already responded. Jesus says, follow me. You're either already leaving behind the nets, boat, family, friends, everything else to follow Jesus, or you're just saying, hey, I'm good right now. Thanks. I'll just keep that invitation on my fridge until a later date. Sometimes we think like this. Man, I really know that I need to follow Jesus, but my life is so messed up. I've got to get some stuff straight before I come to Jesus. Can I just speak real honestly into that line of thinking this morning? Because I know some of you are thinking that. I know you are. You'll never follow Jesus. Never. Because your life will never be straightened up enough. That's the whole reason Jesus came. Because you're a mess. And I'm a mess. I can't fix it. I'm the one who broke it. Jesus comes in and says, let me just take your mess. Just follow me. He comes to you just as you are. Mess and all, warts and all. He takes you because he loves you. And he transforms you into something brand new. I want to close with this question this morning. So we've asked you what you do. We've asked you what you can do about your skills, talents, and abilities. I want to leave you with this thought. So Jesus has made this invitation. So what will you do? What will you do with Jesus' invitation today? He has asked you to follow him. Will you do what it takes in order to do it?
Hey, thanks for watching. We hope that you'll stay tuned for next week's podcast, and feel free to look around and find previous week's sermons available here as well. We hope you have a great week.